Welcome back. You are listening to the home of forbidden romances. Prepare yourself, because tonight's story will leave you breathless. The muzzle of the suppressed pistol pressed cold and unyielding against Julian's temple, a sensation that was terrifyingly grounded compared to the surreal chaos of his racing heart. Rain lashed against the bulletproof glass of the limousine, blurring the neon lights of the city into streaks of bleeding watercolor. Across from him sat the man who held the gun, not a kidnapper, not an assassin, but his husband of 3 hours. Cassius Vane looked at him with eyes like shattered obsidian, devoid of warmth, devoid of mercy. "You speak to no one," Cassius said, his voice a low rumble that vibrated through the leather seats. "You look at no one. You are a Vane now. That means you are a target. If you step out of line, I won't hesitate to put you down myself to save us both the embarrassment." Julian swallowed hard, his hands trembling in his lap. He had expected cruelty. The rumors surrounding the Vane syndicate painted Cassius as a monster in a tailored suit, but the visceral reality of the threat paralyzed him. And then, it happened. A voice, clear as a bell, echoed inside Julian's skull. It was deep, rich, and unmistakably Cassius's, yet his husband's lips had not moved. God, he's shaking. I'm scaring him. I have to scare him. If he doesn't fear me, he'll wander, and if he wanders, Silas will butcher him. Please, my angel, just hate me. Hate me enough to stay safe. Julian's eyes widened, his breath hitching in his throat. He stared at Cassius, who merely holstered the weapon and turned his gaze to the rain-streaked window, his jaw set in a line of grim determination. The contrast between the spoken threat and the internal plea was so violent, so jarring, that Julian felt the world tilt on its axis. The marriage had been a transaction, a signature on a piece of parchment that traded Julian's freedom for the erasure of his father's insurmountable gambling debts. Julian was an artist, a painter who lived in a world of soft pastels and quiet galleries. Cassius Vane was the enigma of the underworld, a man whose reputation was built on steel, blood, and a silence that swallowed his enemies whole. They were dragged into the union by necessity and tradition. The Vane family needed a legitimate heir, a facade of domestic stability to appease the old council. Julian's father needed a lifeline. Julian was simply the currency. The Vane estate was a fortress of Gothic architecture and modern security, perched on a cliff overlooking the turbulent ocean. It was beautiful, in the way a mausoleum is beautiful. For the first 2 weeks, Julian lived like a ghost in the sprawling manor. He avoided the West Wing, where Cassius conducted his business. He ate his meals in the solarium, surrounded by orchids that cost more than his father's entire house. The ability, this sudden, intrusive telepathy, had manifested the moment their hands touched at the altar. It was erratic, functioning only when they were in close proximity, a tether that Julian hadn't asked for and didn't know how to sever. It was a Tuesday morning when the dynamic began to shift. Julian was seated at the long mahogany dining table, picking at a plate of eggs Benedict. The heavy oak doors swung open, and Cassius strode in, bringing with him the scent of rain and ozone. He was dressed in a charcoal 3-piece suit, the tailoring sharp enough to cut. He didn't sit. He stood at the head of the table, pouring himself a black coffee. "You're pale," Cassius stated, not looking at him. "The chef tells me you barely touched dinner. Are you trying to starve yourself to make a point?" "It's childish." Julian flinched, gripping his fork tighter. "I'm just not hungry, Cassius. The atmosphere here is heavy." Cassius slammed the coffee cup down. "It's a house, Julian, not a prison. Stop acting like a martyr. Eat." Look at those dark circles. He's not sleeping. Is the bed too hard? Is it too cold? I should order the silk sheets from Milan, the ones he was looking at in that magazine 3 months ago. I'd burn this whole house down if it would make him smile, just once. Julian choked on his water. He coughed violently, his face turning red. Cassius was at his side in an instant, his hand heavy and warm on Julian's back. "Breathe," he commanded harshly. "Pathetic. Can't even drink water without a crisis." Please be okay. Please be okay. If you choke, I don't know CPR. I'll kill the chef. I'll kill the water, Julian looked up, eyes watering, to see Cassius's face twisted in a mask of annoyance. But the mind, The mind was a chaotic storm of panic. "I'm fine," Julian managed to wheeze. He looked at his husband, really looked at him, for the first time. Beneath the sharp cheekbones and the cruel set of the mouth, he saw the tension in Cassius's shoulders. "Why do you do that?" "Do what?" Cassius snapped, stepping back as if burned. "Act like you hate me." Cassius sneered, adjusting his cufflinks. "I don't have the energy to hate you, Julian. You are an obligation. Nothing more. I don't hate you. I've loved you since I saw you sketching in the park 4 years ago. I bought that bench. I bought the coffee shop across the street just to ensure no one harassed you. You are the only clean thing in my world, and I am terrified that my darkness will stain you. Julian lowered his gaze to his plate, his heart hammering a frantic rhythm. It was too much information. It was a deluge of obsession and adoration hidden behind a wall of ice. Cassius Vane, the enigma, the monster, had been stalking him, loving him, from the shadows for years. "I have a gala tonight," Cassius said abruptly, breaking the silence. "The Valeni merger. You will attend. Wear the blue velvet. And do not speak unless spoken to. You look like a prince in blue. I want to show you off to the world, and then gouge out the eyes of anyone who dares to look at you for too long. "Okay," Julian whispered. "I'll be ready." The gala was held in the grand ballroom of the city's most exclusive hotel. Crystal chandeliers the size of small cars dripped light onto a sea of tuxedos and designer gowns. The air smelled of expensive perfume and suppressed aggression. Julian walked beside Cassius, his hand tucked into the crook of his husband's arm. He could feel the tension radiating off Cassius like heat from a furnace. Every time a rival approached, men with gold teeth and dead eyes, Cassius's grip on Julian would tighten imperceptibly. Cassius greeted a man with a scar running through his left eyebrow. This was Silas, the man Cassius had warned him about in the car. And the lovely acquisition. "He's smaller than I expected." "He is not for discussion, Silas," Cassius said, his voice level but laced with venom. "We are here for the port territories, not for pleasantries." Silas laughed, a dry, grating sound. He stepped closer to Julian, invading his personal space. "A pretty thing. Does he break easily?" Cassius moved. It was subtle, a shift of weight, positioning his larger frame between Julian and Silas. "Touch him, and you will lose the hand." "That isn't a threat, Silas. It is a forecast. If he breathes on you, I will dissect him. I will tear this building down brick by brick." "Don't look at him, Julian. Don't look at the monster. Look at me. Only me. Julian shivered. The protective rage in Cassius's mind was a roaring inferno, a stark contrast to his icy exterior. But as Silas backed away, hands raised in mock surrender, Julian heard something else. A thought that didn't belong to Cassius. It was faint, coming from Silas, but the proximity amplified it. Enjoy the champagne, Vane. The poison in the Grand Reserve is slow-acting. By the time you realize your legs are numb, the port will be mine. Julian froze. He watched as a waiter approached with a tray of vintage champagne, the Grand Reserve. Cassius reached out, his fingers closing around the stem of a glass. "No," Julian gasped. He didn't think, he reacted. He slapped the glass from Cassius's hand. The crystal shattered against the marble floor. The sound was a gunshot in the crowded room. Silence descended instantly. Hundreds of eyes turned to them. Cassius stared at the broken glass, then at Julian. His expression was thunderous. "What the hell do you think you are doing?" Silas stepped forward, feigning concern. "Oh dear. Perhaps the boy has had too much to drink already? Nerves, surely." Julian ignored Silas. He grabbed Cassius's lapels, pulling him down. "Don't drink it," he hissed, his voice trembling but urgent. "The Grand Reserve. It's bad." Cassius looked at him. For a second, he looked ready to strike him for the public insult. Then, he saw the terror in Julian's eyes. He saw the absolute conviction. Why? Why did he do that? He looks terrified. He's not drunk. He's trying to save me. Cassius straightened up. He looked at the waiter, then at Silas. The cold calculation returned to his eyes. He signaled his head of security, a massive man named Thorne. "Secure the perimeter," Cassius ordered calmly. "And hold that waiter. We're leaving." "You can't just leave, Vane," Silas barked, his composure slipping. "This is an insult. The insult, Cassius said softly, was thinking you could serve me swill and I wouldn't notice. He grabbed Julian's hand, not roughly, but firmly, and marched him toward the exit. As they passed Silas, Julian heard one last thought from the rival Don. Asterisk, how did he know? The boy. The boy knows something. Asterisk. The ride back to the estate was suffocating. Cassius didn't speak. He stared straight ahead, his profile cut from granite. Julian sat huddled in the corner, waiting for the explosion. He had humiliated Cassius in front of the entire syndicate. When they arrived, Cassius dismissed the servants. He locked the heavy double doors of the drawing room and turned to Julian. Explain, he demanded. Now. Julian took a deep breath. He poisoned it. Silas. The champagne. And you know this how? Cassius stepped closer, looming over him. You're a painter, Julian. Not a toxicologist. Julian faltered. How could he explain? I just had a bad feeling. A bad feeling? Cassius laughed, a harsh, humorless sound. You slapped a glass out of my hand in front of the 5 families because of a feeling? Asterisk, tell me the truth. Please, Julian. I want to trust you. I need to trust you. But if you're working with them, if this is some double-blind game to gain my confidence, it will break me. Asterisk. Julian looked up, tears pricking his eyes. I'm not working with them. I heard him. I heard him think it. The silence that followed was absolute. The grandfather clock in the hall ticked away the seconds. You heard him think it, Cassius repeated slowly. You're claiming you can read minds. Yes, Julian cried out. Since the wedding. Since I touched you. I can hear them. But mostly I can't hear you. Cassius froze. The color drained from his face. He took a step back, looking at Julian with genuine horror. You can hear me? He whispered. Yes. Everything. Everything. Julian confirmed softly. I know you bought the bench in the park. I know you imported the strawberries. I know you think my playing is beautiful even when you tell me to stop making noise. Cassius turned away, running a hand through his hair. He looked like a man who had just been stripped naked in a blizzard. The armor, the Enigma persona, the terrifying reputation, it was all shattered. Asterisk, he knows. He knows I'm pathetic. He knows I'm obsessed. He knows I love him so much it hurts to breathe. He must be disgusted. A monster like me, fawning over him like a schoolboy. Asterisk. Julian moved. He crossed the room and placed a hand on Cassius's back. He felt the muscles bunch up, rigid with tension. I'm not disgusted, Julian said, answering the thought directly. Cassius flinched. He turned slowly, his eyes searching Julian's face for any sign of mockery. You shouldn't know these things. It's dangerous. Weakness gets people killed in my world, Julian. And you are my only weakness. That's why you're so cold, Julian said, realizing the full scope of the logic. If they think you don't care about me, they won't use me against you. Exactly, Cassius rasped. I have to be the enigma. I have to be the stone. If they knew that the sound of your voice is the only thing that keeps me sane, they would tear you apart to get to me. But they tried tonight, Julian countered. Silas didn't care if I was a trophy or a lover. He just wanted you dead. And you saved me. Cassius reached out, his fingers hovering over Julian's cheek before finally, tentatively, touching the skin. Why? After everything I've said to you? After the way I've treated you? Because, Julian leaned into the touch. I can hear you, Cassius. I know who you really are. You're not the monster they say you are. You're just lonely and scared. Cassius closed his eyes, leaning his forehead against Julian's. Asterisk, I don't deserve him. I have blood on my hands up to my elbows. But God help me. I can't let him go. Asterisk. You don't have to let me go, Julian whispered. Cassius's eyes snapped open. The intensity in them scorched Julian. Then you are a fool. But you are my fool now. He kissed him. It wasn't the chaste, performative kiss from the altar. It was hungry, desperate, possessing. It tasted of whiskey and repressed longing. Julian melted into it, his hands tangling in Cassius's hair, pulling him closer. For the first time, the internal voice was silent. There was no need for thoughts. The action spoke loud enough. The peace was short-lived. 2 nights later, the repercussions of the gala arrived. The estate's alarms screamed into the night, cutting through the heavy rain. Cassius was out of bed instantly, a gun in his hand before Julian had even fully woken up. Stay down, Cassius commanded, checking the clip. Silas has made his move. Asterisk, I knew he wouldn't wait. He's desperate. Thorn is at the south gate, but they'll breach the east wall. I have to get Julian to the panic room. Asterisk. Cassius. Julian scrambled up, grabbing a silk rope. There are 6 of them. Approaching the library terrace. Cassius looked at him. You can hear them? Yes. They're adrenaline. It's loud. They're thinking about the payout. Good. Cassius's smile was terrifying. It was the smile of the Enigma. Be my eyes, Julian. Tell me where they are. They moved through the darkened corridors like shadows. Julian, barefoot and trembling, clung to the back of Cassius's suit. He acted as radar, whispering positions. 2 in the hallway. Waiting around the corner. Cassius nodded. He moved with fluid, lethal grace. 2 suppressed shots. 2 bodies hit the floor. Cassius didn't even blink. Asterisk, don't look, Julian. Close your eyes. I don't want you to see this, asterisk. Julian kept his eyes open. He had to. 3 more. Coming up the main stairs. They have heavy gear. Breaching charges. The panic room is cut off, Cassius cursed. We have to go to the garage. They sprinted toward the service elevator. As the doors closed, an explosion rocked the house. The library was gone. In the garage, the sleek black shapes of Cassius's collection sat waiting. He shoved Julian into the passenger seat of an armored Aston Martin. Get down, he ordered, starting the engine. The roar of the V-12 echoed like a beast waking up. As the garage door opened, gunfire erupted. Bullets sparked against the reinforced glass. Cassius spun the wheel, drifting the car out onto the wet driveway, crushing a manicured hedge. There's a sniper, Julian screamed, clutching his head. On the roof. He's aiming for the tires. Cassius swerved violently just as a high-caliber round impacted the pavement where they had been a second before. Got it. They sped down the winding cliff road, leaving the burning estate behind. The silence in the car was heavy, broken only by the rhythmic thumping of the wipers. Are we safe? Julian asked, his voice small. For now, Cassius said. His knuckles were white on the steering wheel. We're going to a safe house in the mountains. No one knows about it. Not even Thorn. Asterisk, I almost lost him. If that sniper had been a second faster. If Julian hadn't warned me. Asterisk. Cassius reached over, his hand finding Julian's knee. He squeezed hard. You did well. You were brave. I was terrified, Julian admitted. That's what bravery is, Cassius said. Being terrified and doing it anyway. They drove in silence for an hour until the city lights were just aglow in the rearview mirror. The safe house was a cabin, modest by Vane standards, hidden deep in a pine forest. Once inside, Cassius checked every window, every lock. Only when he was satisfied did he collapse onto the worn leather sofa. He looked exhausted. The armor was gone completely now. Julian found a first aid kit in the bathroom. He came back and sat on the floor between Cassius's legs. You're bleeding. Cassius looked down at his arm. A graze from a bullet, shallow but messy. It's nothing. It's not nothing. Julian began to clean the wound. His hands were steady now. Cassius watched him. The thoughts drifted into Julian's mind, soft and melancholic like the rain outside. Asterisk, I wanted to give him the world. Instead, I gave him a war zone. I should annul the marriage. Send him away to Europe with enough money to live like a king. He deserves peace. He deserves sunlight and music, not blood and gunpowder. Asterisk. Don't you dare, Julian said, pressing a bandage over the wound a little too hard. Cassius hissed. Don't I dare what? Don't you dare send me away. I heard you. Julian looked up, his eyes fierce. I don't want Europe. I don't want the money. Julian, look at tonight. Cassius argued, his voice rising. This is my life. It will always be like this. You nearly died. And I saved you, Julian countered. We saved each other. You think I want to go back to being a pawn for my father? Or a lonely artist in an empty apartment? You give me purpose, Cassius. And you love me. Cassius fell silent. He reached down, cupping Julian's face in his large hands. I do, he confessed, the words rough. I love you more than I have the right to. Then let me be your partner, Julian said. Not just your husband. Not just your weakness. Your partner. I can hear the things you can't. I can be the warning system you need. Together, we're untouchable. Cassius stared at him, searching for hesitation and finding none. A slow, genuine smile spread across his face. A rare, beautiful thing that transformed him from the Enigma into a man. The Viper and the Oracle, Cassius mused. It has a ring to it. Asterisk, he wants to stay. He actually wants to stay. With me? Asterisk. Yes, I do, Julian whispered. Cassius pulled him up onto the sofa, burying his face in Julian's neck. Then stay. Rule with me. But know this, Julian Vane. Once you commit to this life, there is no going back. I will never let you go. Good. Julian breathed, closing his eyes as Cassius's hands began to roam, claiming what was his. I don't want to go anywhere. 6 months later, the rebuilding of the Vane estate was complete. It was grander, more imposing, but the solarium was filled with even more rare flowers, and a grand piano now sat in the main hall. Silas was gone, a tragic boating accident that the police deemed misadventure. The other families had fallen in line. The Vane syndicate was stronger than ever, guided by a Don who seemed to anticipate his enemies' moves before they even made them. Julian stood on the balcony, watching the waves crash against the cliffs below. He wore a suit of midnight blue, tailored to perfection. He felt a presence behind him, a warmth that radiated through the cool sea air. Cassius wrapped his arms around Julian's waist, resting his chin on his shoulder. They're arriving, Cassius murmured. The council. They're nervous. Asterisk, they should be. They know you're the one pulling the strings now, my beautiful, dangerous oracle. Asterisk. Julian smiled, leaning back into the embrace. He could hear the thoughts of the men in the cars approaching the driveway. Fear, respect, calculation. But the loudest voice was the one right against his ear, the steady, unwavering hum of devotion from the man who held the world in one hand and Julian's heart in the other. Let them be nervous, Julian said softly. We have nothing to fear. And that is how the Viper tamed the wolf. If you enjoyed seeing Julian take control of his destiny, destroy that like button. And tell me in the comments, would you forgive a husband who pretended to hate you to save your life? I'll be reading your answers. Subscribe for the next chapter. Until then, prompt image. Prompt. Masterpiece, best quality, high-res, 1.2. Korean manhwa style, semi-realistic, digital art. 2 men, BL, Yaoi, man 1. Julian, delicate features, soft wavy brown hair, looking fearful yet determined, wearing silk pajamas, standing barefoot. Man 2. Cassius, tall, muscular build, sharp jawline, cold expression, short black hair. Wearing a gun holster over a white dress shirt with sleeves rolled up, protective stance. Background is a dark, luxurious bedroom. Rain on large floor. Ceiling windows, blue moonlight, dramatic lighting, shadows, cinematic composition, intricate details, tension.